All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Armchair Armdrager podcast. This is episode number 17, and we are 1 day away from the biggest day of the pro wrestling calendar, August 31st, NXT UK Takeover Cardiff, Royal Quest presented by New Japan, and All Out. All on the same day. Two of them, I think, are at the same time, roughly. So we have predictions for each and every single one of those matches. It's going to be a long one. Let's jump right in. There is another topic we're going to talk about first, but as always at the start of these podcasts, I got to do the Twitter. Follow me, follow the podcast, follow All Things Combat, and follow the Cauldron. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, it is at ChurroSolider. If you want to follow this podcast, it is at Podcast Armchair. If you want to follow All Things Combat, which is the website I write for, where we cover professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA. That is at Things Combat. We're going to have predictions for all of these shows. I believe going up, the latest will be on Saturday. Partly because one of the matches for Royal Quest is not determined until tonight. So we'll see what that happens then. We're going to have predictions for all of those shows. I have 2 articles in the works. One they already know about, one they don't. I'm probably going to get the one they don't in relatively soon, I'm hoping. The other one is about NXT going to the USA Network in 2 hours. So, having a 2-hour show. Now that it's going to the USA Network in literally 2 hours, that it's going to be a 2 hour. You get what I'm saying. And also, I am the sports editor over at The Cauldron at Cleveland State. And if you want to follow all the Cleveland State, for lack of a better term, shenanigans going on, you can follow that at CSU Cauldron. You will also see that I had the opportunity to sit down with the new Cleveland State men's head basketball coach, Dennis Gates. Very fun conversation him and I had. We just kind of sat around 30 minutes and talked. It was a nice time. That article will be up, I believe, on September 10th, which will be the same day we distribute the papers all around campus. So if you go to Cleveland State and you listen to this podcast, go grab a copy of The Cauldron. If you don't go to Cleveland State and you want to see that article, I will have it linked in the description in 2 podcasts, if my math is right. Yes. Okay. So before we get to all this prediction stuff, something very important came out today on Thursday, and it's the PWI 500 for the late half of 2018 to 2019. And the fact that Seth Rollins is number 1 slightly annoys me. So let's talk about it like this. Can I understand Seth Rollins being the number 1 wrestler in the world? Absolutely. He won, I think in the same year, he won all 3 titles he could. Excuse me. He won the Universal Championship. He won the Intercontinental title, although I don't remember if that was during the grading period. And I think he won 2 Raw Tag Team titles in that span. So it's understandable. I get it. But if you're going to look at Will Ospreay and tell me, based off of that stretch of time, in that same stretch of time, that he has done less than Seth Rollins has, and you have him at 10 when the man who he beat on the final day of the G1 in Hiroshi Tanahashi is 1 spot above him, and the guy who Hiroshi Tanahashi beat at Wrestle Kingdom 13 in Kenny Omega is 1 spot above him at 8. Why is this a thing? Why? Will Ospreay, to me, is the number 1 wrestler of the year. Look at the calendar year. Look at all the big matches Will Ospreay had. He lost 1 of them. He lost to Jeff Cobb at Madison Square Garden. He beat Kota Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom. He went all the way in the Best of the Super Juniors, only losing to Phantasmo and Robbie Eagles due to shenanigans. He beat Shingo Takagi, who was unbeaten at that point. He went into the G1 for a junior heavyweight and had a pretty damn good showing. He beat Hiroshi Tanahashi. He went toe-to-toe with Kazuchika Okada. He beat Sonata, went toe-to-toe again with Ibushi. He beat Fale. No, Fale beat him. And he beat Archer. So, you tell me, in that same stretch of time that Ospreay has only done enough to be number 10, when Roman Reigns, and I understand the Roman Reigns story completely. I'm very happy that he's back wrestling and he's 100% healthy. But Roman has not won a championship since... When was the last time Roman even won a championship? He won the Universal title from Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. That's what it was. If you're going to tell me a guy who hasn't held the championship since SummerSlam last year had a better year than Will Ospreay, then something is not right. I would have said Ospreay in the top 5. Maybe you move Bryan and Styles down a little more. I don't think Bryan's 2. If anything, Ospreay should have been 2. At least. And you have Bryan at 3, AJ at 4, Kofi at 5. Maybe you take AJ out and you put Kofi at 4 and you put Okada at 5. I don't know. Meltzer has a long, complicated system with this. I don't know half of it. It's something that, and I've said this before, I don't like complaining about it, but there are times I'm going to complain about it where I just don't get it. And that's what I did right now. I just don't get why certain guys are ahead of other guys. But I don't mind the fact that Ospreay is only in the top 10. I'm happy he's in there. I don't use the top 500 to list the top 500 best wrestlers in the world. I use the 500 to look at wrestlers who I haven't had a chance to see before and be like, maybe I should check this guy out. Maybe, this guy was in the top 150 and I've never heard of him. Maybe I should check him out. And that's how you find new favorites. That's how I found Marty Scurll. That's how I found Jay Lethal even. Because I knew Jay Lethal from TNA, but after I fell off of wrestling, I thought, well, maybe Lethal retired. I found him in the 500, so I'm like, well, guess not. Now I got to go see what he's doing. But this is an opportunity for you to find wrestlers that you don't really know or you've heard of, and you can see what somebody else, a quote-unquote expert in professional wrestling journalism. I don't know if you can call being a professional wrestling journalist an expert, but I look at it as it's somebody who is knowledgeable on a subject that you enjoy, and you can see what they think of the thing you enjoy. And that's what was really important to me with these PWI 500s. And even the women's 100. You can just go through and look and see, oh, that person is somebody I don't know before. Maybe I should look and see what he's done. And you could find a new favorite for all you know. Anyway, PWI 500 out of the way. I'm going to be very... I said this also. And I said I don't like to get mad about this. But if Jay White's number 11... and he missed out because Roman Reigns needed a top 10 spot, something is wrong in Dave's head. I will leave it at that if Jay White is number 11. Of course, I'm getting a copy, but please don't let Jay White be. Jay's going to be 11, isn't he? Jay is going to be 11. God. So anyway, now that that's out of the way, let's get to what the meat and potatoes of this whole podcast is going to be this week. Predictions. 3 shows, 3 sets of predictions. One's going to be a lot shorter because there's only 5 matches. The other 2 are roughly the same length, but a lot of those are going to be pretty short too. So let's get right into it with what will be airing first, if my math is correct. NXT UK Takeover Cardiff. Now let's see. It probably doesn't have a time on the poster. No, it does not. 2 p.m. So this one starts at 2 p.m. What time does Royal Quest start? Royal Quest does not say. Oh, wait. Might have said it there. No, it says Fight TV. There's Copper Box Office. Nope, doesn't say. So we're going to say that we're just going to assume TakeOver Cardiff airs first. So 5 matches like every other TakeOver card. Cesaro, from the main roster, Cesaro has said he's going to be there. In what capacity, we don't really know. I'm fine with not knowing. I have a theory, and I'll get to it when I get to the match. So let's start at the top of the card. Travis Banks versus Noam Dar. This is just 2 guys who are workhorses in a sense. They're both really talented wrestlers. They're both very underrated, I think, to say the least. And Noam Dar going to NXT UK was a nice addition. Ever since signing with WWE, he has had injury concerns. There's been small things here and there, but he's never been able to keep momentum. This is a good match for him to start trying to get that momentum back. But I keep thinking that Travis Banks has something big. They have something big planned for Travis Banks, I think. And I really want it to be the case because, like I say in the predictions article, I have been a fan of Banks since I found him in WCPW as a member of the Prestige. Banks has always just been somebody that I've been interested in and supported, and I really want to see what he can do now that he's at the big level. It's also kind of a thing. Like, say if NXT Australia is going to be a thing, also that's the case. They're not going to announce it at an NXT UK show. From some of the things I've read on Twitter, there's still bad blood between the Aussies and the Brits. I really don't think it's the case, and I think it's a joke, but we'll see. But if NXT Australia does become a thing, Travis Banks is probably going to be the first champion over there, and I'd be perfectly fine with that. He's somebody who I think it could be ready for the main roster, but given his size and everything, he would be on 205 Live more. So I think Banks gets the win here, and he starts to push towards the next level of the card. And it's a really thin line here that I'm walking because of the fact that this is the one match you don't really think you know. And I'm totally fine with that. I like not knowing in some of these matches. And there are some matches where I like knowing, so that way I don't have to scratch my head and think, how the hell can this work? Who is going to win? But this one, I think it's Travis Banks winning because he beats an established name and he starts to build momentum to maybe being a challenger for Walter again down the line. Next match is Last Man Standing, Dave Mastiff versus Joe Coffey. The fact that this is a Last Man Standing match with no title should tell you how personal and serious this rivalry and feud has been. These two just don't like each other. And we're going to see each other. We're going to see this match be an all-out, drag-em-out brawl. And I am excited for it. Now, the thing is, I like Joe Coffey too. I also found Joe Coffey as part of the Prestige in WCPW. But I'm going with Mastiff here because of the fact that I think in the future, they're building Mastiff up. There are certain guys that just wouldn't lose at takeovers. Currently, that's Velveteen Dream. Velveteen Dream always seems to win at takeovers now. At first, he couldn't get a win to save his life. He lost to EC3 at a takeover. Now he's, I think, on a 3 or 4 match takeover winning streak. Adam Cole's another one. He would rarely lose at takeovers. Well, no, he would. He's lost the title to Ricochet. He lost to Cole. Or Cole lost to Gargano. Well, he lost 2 times at least. But now what I think is tough is that with Mastiff, I think they want to build to Mastiff versus Walter. But the problem with that is, if that's the case, more people are going to be behind Walter, and he's the heel. So, is that really a smart direction to be heading? I'm very curious and I'm very optimistic, is I guess the best term. But yeah, these two are just going to beat the absolute crap out of each other. I'm excited to see it. These two, I'm totally fine with it. I'm totally fine with them just being the big bruiser guys of the division. And it's what I want to see. It's what I want them to be. I'm excited for it. I do think Mastiff wins. I'm not going to say it's not close. It's going to be close because Last Man Standing, we typically see weapons included. I'd love if... this is just me being an idiot. I would love to see Joe Coffey pull out a pot of black coffee and actually use that on Mastiff. It wouldn't be a bad idea. Imagine if it's like hot coffee. It's like scalding in his eyes. It could be something that they could do at some point in the future. Just throwing an idea out there, WWE. Feel free to use it. And I keep thinking of like a Mastiff versus Walter match. Like, yeah, I know Mastiff has the star power, but in NXT UK, does he really have that? He beat Eddie Dennis. That's like his most notable win. Also, can I point out how disappointed I am that there's still no Ligero on a takeover? Put Ligero on a takeover. I don't care who it is. Give him Sid Scala. Give him Johnny Saint. I don't care. Let Ligero be the great wrestler we all know he is. We all love Ligero. We want Ligero to be pushed to the moon. It's because his mask's really cool, I think. So now we're at the NXT UK Tag Team Championships with Zach Gibson and James Drake They're still called the Grizzled Young Veterans, but not yet in NXT. I've heard them use it a couple times in promos, but the Grizzled Young Veterans are defending their titles against Gallus, I believe I said that right, in Mark Coffey and Wolfgang. And it's a triple threat, also including Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster, the hometown boys. Now, here's my big thing with this match. There's two things. One, I do not trust Flash Morgan Webster as far as I can throw him. And the reason for that is he is always wishy-washy on a team. Sometimes he supports you, sometimes he doesn't. The best recent example of that was with him teaming with Mark Haskins and Jimmy Havoc. What a crazy world. Flash Morgan Webster is signed by WWE, Haskins is with ROH, and Jimmy Havoc's with AEW now. And this was in Progress, jeez. It was Flash Morgan Webster teaming with Havoc and Haskins in Progress, but his heart was never really in it, and then he went back to Wild Boar and the 198. There was also a couple of other tag team matches where he just bailed on his partner. So I'm like more nervous about him being being somebody that you can rely on as a teammate. So I think Mark Andrews is going to get turned on. This could lead to a match at a UK taping, and we could see the reunion of FSU with Andrews and Dennis. I'm pretty sure they would go for the more clean version of that. If you want to know what I'm talking about, just look up Mark Andrews or Flash Morgan, or not Flash. Look up Mark Andrews or Eddie Dennis, and you'll see it. You'll understand it. The other thing, I think this is where Cesaro comes into play. Now, Pete Dunne's not on the card. It's understandable. He, from everything I've seen, could be on NXT USA. So, excuse me. I think that Cesaro comes in here. He's added into the match, but the problem is that would be a 3-team match plus one guy. His partner is Cassius Ohno. These two worked so well together in Ring of Honor as whatever the hell Cesaro's name was, because I could never say it right, Claudio something. And with Ohno acting as being Chris Hero, these two work together really well, and I would be excited to see that because it would be a throwback to something, and Triple H is known to like independent wrestling. So we could see a nice little throwback there. All that being said, I think Grizzled Young Veterans retain. This is the toss-up of the night for me. Because there's so many different ways they could go. They could completely just be saying, no, we're putting it on Andrews and Webster because of the fact that they're the hometown boys and this is in Wales. And I could understand that. They could be like, oh, well, we wanted to get to another heel team, but if it's a heel versus a heel match, people might not be invested. And you just have Gallus pin either Webster or Andrews. Or you could just say, here's a championship, Cesaro. Go ahead. Or you could just say, you guys retain. I'm going with the last option where Gibson and Jake retain because I think there's still more they could do with those titles. It's also partly because with how little depth they have in the NXT UK tag team division, I think you need a dominant team to be the leaders of that division. So now we get to our semi-main with Toni Storm defending the NXT UK Women's Championship against Kay Lee Ray. I'm also on two fronts with this. On one front, I can see it being a straight-up normal match. My brain thinks that Toni Storm doesn't need NXT UK. NXT UK doesn't necessarily need Toni Storm considering how much talent they already have. There's another NXT Women's Champion that's been a big bad heel that could come into this. Could we see Toni Storm pull a Pete Dunne, make the jump to NXT USA, and be the one to dethrone Shayna Baszler as NXT Women's Champion? Now, the reason for this is the only person in the division that hasn't had a title shot yet that is a face is Dakota Kai. And I'm a big fan of Dakota Kai. I love Dakota Kai. But has she done enough to guarantee the fans seeing her as a legitimate threat? That's my thinking. I can imagine I can see Toni Storm go over there, take over WrestleMania weekend, and win that title. Also, what I would love to see them do now that they have 2 NXTs at WrestleMania weekend, just a random quick thought, an NXT Super Show. Early in the day, you have NXT UK. Maybe you take like an hour and a half break after that, and then you have NXT. Like you have a 2-part takeover essentially, where you can then have fans like sit down, digest, and even just like listen and talk about what they've already seen. But back to this match, that's my thinking. Like you could see Toni Storm make the jump. Kaylee Ray could just be the one to beat her though, or you could see Toni Storm just retain. I think, and I know she's cleared now. Tegan Nox could play into this one. She is somebody who the UK would know, especially being in Wales. Kaylee Ray could win this, and since she's been a proper dick in recent weeks of TV, not Dakota Kai, partner, Tegan Nox. Nox could just come out and level the playing field and just go down on Kaylee Ray. And maybe Ray is just a transitional champion to get the belt from Storm to Nox. I don't know, because like Nox, I'm still nervous about because she is back with, after knee surgery. Excuse me. Jeez, had a long day. It would be a tough sell because she's just back from major surgery. They'd probably want to ease her back in, I would think. But that could be just me. As far as winner, I'm gonna say I'm playing it safe, but I don't think I am. And I'm gonna take Toni Storm. Because of the fact that I think there's still some more she could do, and if you want her to be the one to beat Baszler at WrestleMania weekend, you have to build that storyline up. And I don't know if we're going to get to that point yet. But we'll see. We have a little time to go still before that. But our main event of the evening for NXT UK Takeover Cardiff is going to be Walter versus Tyler Bate. This is the easiest match to predict on the show. Walter is winning simply because of the fact that I don't think Bate's going to win the title from him. Bate's going to be a star in this company. I just don't think it's time for him to be a single star. I think Walter is going to keep this title for a while, I think. And looking at like who could beat him, the only name right this second on the NXT UK roster that I could see actually beating Walter is maybe Ilya Dragunov. And we're a long way away from that happening. But I do think this is going to be a great match. These two work together well phenomenally. They were at one of might have been Hello Wembley, where Walter faced off with Tyler Bate for Progress. And that was a hell of a match. These two could easily do it again. But I simply think Walter's got a lot more to do still as champion. So that is TakeOver Cardiff predictions. Just to recap, Travis Banks over Noam Dar, Dave Mastiff over Joe Coffey, Grizzled Young Veterans and Zach Gibson and James Drake retain their NXT UK Tag Team Championships, which turns into a Fatal 4-Way match, including Cesaro and Cassius Ohno. Toni Storm beats Kaylee Ray, and Walter retains over Tyler Bate. Let's go to Royal Quest. This is another promotion. This is another match card where it's like not the biggest match card in the world, but still something that'll get people talking. So you have 8 matches. It's also a relatively short show, considering how the preview tags go. They usually go pretty quick. So let's get right up to it. You have the first match is Ryusuke Taguchi versus started over. We have Ryusuke Taguchi Shota Umino and Ren Narita versus Roppongi 3K, all the members, Rocky Romero, Show, and Yo, in a 6-man tag match, easily going with Roppongi 3K. Now, the Young Lion Cup is coming up, so I expect to see a lot from Shota and Ren. One of them taking the pin. If I was a gambling man, I would say it's more likely going to be Ren Narita. Also, the fact that Roppongi 3K is a unit. They've worked together for years. They know each other so well. I still feel like Show is going to kind of try to break away from them and be his own guy, but I could be wrong. The thing is, though, with this match, you have three guys that know each other so well versus one guy with two young lions. Typically in New Japan, young lions take the loss every single time. This is why it's so predictable. And yeah, the Young Lion Cup is going to be important. Shota and Ren are two of the early favorites of that. I'm curious how close to the favorites Carl Fredericks and Clark Connors would be. And Yuta, the kid who was seconding Tanahashi during the G1. Yeah, I'm going to go with Roppongi 3K here easily. Maybe some seeds get planted for a future breakup, but we will see. The next match is Kota Ibushi and Juice Robinson versus Bullet Club, represented by Yujiro Takahashi and Hikuleo. One side, you have the G1 Climax winner and a former multi-time IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. The other side is Yujiro Takahashi and Hikuleo. Very simple prediction here. I do feel like Yujiro could begin to be a big name in in New Japan again. If Bullet Club didn't already have Ishimori and Phantasmo in the junior level, Yujiro and Chase Owens could easily go for the junior heavyweight tag belts. But the G1 Climax winner and a former multi-time heavyweight champ is going to be hard to go against. It's more now, how do we get Ibushi to Wrestle Kingdom? He's got two challengers lined up. He's got Kenta and Evil. One of these shows, he's not going to be defending that contract. Unless Naito can stake his claim to it. Which could be the case for the last show before Wrestle Kingdom that I'm blanking on. Doesn't matter. We'll get to there when we get to there. But just because of the fact that they're so much more experienced at a heavyweight level, and also the fact that one of them won the G1, I'm going with Ibushi and Juice Robinson. Now, the next match is really, really interesting. So we have Chaos, represented by Will Ospreay and Robbie Eagles, against Bullet Club of Taiji Ishimori and El Phantasmo. On one side, you have the junior heavyweight champion and Robbie Eagles. The other side, you have the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. I don't think Will Ospreay is going to win the tag titles in the junior division. I think at some point he is going to transition up to the heavyweight division and exclusively the heavyweight division, a lot like Yujiro has, like Chase Owens has. But with this one, it's what's the correct wording for it? I think it would overcomplicate things if Ospreay and Eagles picked the win. Phantasmo just won Super J Cup. I had him on the bottom half of the cut line. He was number 9. And New Japan decided to have the number 9 in my article win. Ugh. But I do think that simply because of the fact that Phantasmo has that win and he's probably going to be the next challenger for Ospreay's IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, I think it's a safe bet to go with Bullet Club. And you can continue that story a little bit as well. It's just, I feel like it'd be too much if Ospreay were to win this match too. Next up is Los Ingobernables de Japón, represented by Tetsuya Naito and Sanada, against, once again, Bullet Club, but this time, Chase Owens and Jay White. Now, I look at this match, This was more to get Naito and White on the card so they can get to the Destruction Tour where they're going against each other for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. And with Sonata being in there, along with Jay White's teammate being Chase Owens, it's pretty obvious that Chase Owens is taking the fall. And Sonata could be the one to pick up the win. It could be Naito. The thing is, what they have to do is play their cards carefully. Jay White is maybe the best heel in professional wrestling right now. You kind of have to make sure that he doesn't get damaged. Easiest way to do that is put the belt on him. And you could have Jay White against somebody in a big feud at Wrestle Kingdom. Keep yawning. I don't know why. It's like the tag previews are the easiest ones to predict. These next, after this next one, are all pretty hard. So next up, you would have the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships being defended by Guerrillas of Destiny against one of two teams. I'm going to go to Cage Match to make sure I get the teams exactly right. One of them is Aussie Open. The other does include Shaw Samuels. Where is Cage Match? No, why'd I go to Holly Dead? Right, because I was looking up somebody. Did I not? I didn't. No. Quick. To Rev Pro. Delete all that. Rev Pro. So Guerrillas of Destiny will either be defending against Aussie Open, the team of Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher, or the team of Josh Brodum and Shaw Samuels. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Aussie Open. And given the state of New Japan's tag team division, they really need some bigger names. A lot of independent fans know Aussie Open. So they'll be an interesting team to watch now because of the fact that WWE wants to sign a lot of people. New Japan wants a lot of people still. AEW is going to want a lot of people. Do Aussie Open stay true to the independents, or do they jump ship and join somebody? I think in New Japan they would work really well because of the fact that there's a couple Australians, but not a lot. So they would stick out a little bit that way, and you can kind of put Nick Miller or Nikki Mickles in there. So that can kind of work also, but it's Guerrillas of Destiny against a still-to-be-determined tournament winner. Pretty easy GOD pick for me. Now's the match that has maybe the most writing on it that we have zero clue about. For the Never Openweight Championship, Tomohiro Ishii versus Kenta. A little background on this. On the final night, on the finals of the G1, they have a bunch of tag previews, including people crossing blocks, champions who have been off the whole tournament, the tag team champions. So you see a little bit of everybody. The tough part is, you look at this, you have one very big variable that everybody has questions about. Is Shibata cleared? If Shibata's cleared, this question becomes a lot easier. Well, a lot easier to answer. If he's not, this question is a lot harder to answer. Now, you always kind of figured, even though he's coming over from WWE, he's a big name. He's probably going to get gold soon in Kenta. And I don't mind that. Am I upset it's at Tomohiro Ishii's expense? A little bit, yes. But the tough part is, a lot of this relies on that question. Because if Shibata is cleared, we have a very clear direction that we're going. If he's not cleared, it's kind of a murky water, with maybe a match with Goto at Wrestle Kingdom to finish things off. Maybe. It's kind of like a picking your poison. If Shibata's medically cleared, he gets to return, yes, but he's missed almost 4 years of his life. away from the squared circle. If he's not cleared, then the question is murky because of the fact, and it's a good thing because of the fact that he's not going to hurt himself at our expense. Kenta winning here makes sense to me because of the fact that if and this is a big if, and nobody has any inside information. If Katsuyori Shibata is cleared, he's going to be challenging Kenta for the Never Openweight Championship at Wrestle Kingdom. I think that's pretty obvious. But if he's not cleared, we've got something to figure out. And that's what's the direction for this belt now. It always just felt like Kenta was, I guess, misused in WWE, partly because of injury time, partly because of his own doing. But I think it's time for us to see Kenta shine again, especially back home in Japan. Next up in our semi-main, you have the British Heavyweight Championship, Zack Sabre Jr. versus defending against Hiroshi Tanahashi. These two are so evenly matched in their career. It's like almost a 50-50 split. I haven't seen the actual numbers, but it's like a 50-50 divide, essentially. This is the closest you get to a consistent rivalry in New Japan. Now, my thinking is, if Will Ospreay loses early in the night, they're going to want a big hometown win, and that person would be Zack Sabre Jr. But it's New Japan and Hiroshi Tanahashi. We know he's the ace. We know he's the person that saved this company. He's not going to stay out of title contention long, whether it's this title or the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Now, I look at it as from this perspective. I think Rev Pro want one of their guys, somebody from Rev Pro, or just the UK scene in general, maybe it's Chris Brooks for all I know, to take the title from Zack Sabre Jr. And I think they're going to have a say in the outcome in this match. Because of the fact that technically Zack's their champion, they can do whatever they want with him. And I think New Japan understands that. My thing is, too, I think there's a plan for Zack Sabre Jr. to get a big push in New Japan somewhat soon. Intercontinental, US, something along those lines soon, maybe. Maybe he's the one to take the IC title from Naito at Wrestle Kingdom, for all I know. It's just, with so many guys in New Japan, they're all so talented. You have to pull the trigger on them sooner or later, or else they're going to be gone. That's just my feeling. And it's a feeling I don't like having, but it's just a feeling I have. It's a real tough call. I'm going with Sabre Jr. because of the fact, A, it's in his hometown, his home country, excuse me. B, because of the fact that I don't think Rev Pro would want him to lose the title to anybody except one of their guys. And C, I'm curious, now that New Japan's gone to a 2-day format for Wrestle Kingdom, how will this affect the affiliation companies? The Ring of Honors, the Rev Pros, and the CMLLs. What I would do, personally, I would have the secondary companies have the championship matches that night. Maybe save Rev Pro. Maybe save Rev Pro in the ROH World title. That's also just an excuse to get Matt Taven onto the main card of Wrestle Kingdom. But everything else is competed for on that first day. And the second day, you have all your big matches with the New Japan boys. Specifically, the main event of the 2-show span with Ibushi versus Okada. So how would Sabre fall into this? Would he be on the first show? Would he be on the second show? Would he be on both shows? Maybe. Who knows? That's for us to know and to find out in January, if he's still champion by then. And now for the main event, for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, Minoru Suzuki challenges Will Ospreay. I really want to go Suzuki. I want to go Suzuki so bad. But it's Okada in New Japan. That's the same excuse I gave for having Tanahashi and the other guy, Sabre Jr. That's the exact same reason I just gave. But I have better reasoning for this one. If it's Okada. You want someone to take the title off of him to become essentially the new face of the company. That man would be Kota Ibushi. He's a lot younger than Minoru Suzuki, as much as I would love to see Suzuki as the face of the company again. But it just feels like it would be more important to have Okada as the boss, essentially, going into the Wrestle Kingdom main event, and Ibushi overcoming that boss and winning the match. It's a real tough call, and it's just like Suzuki just beat Okada. He pinned him. That's not what you're supposed to do going into a championship match. And I love Suzuki so much. He's a former AJPW heavyweight champion. I forget what the abbreviation is for that one. He's a former GHC heavyweight champion, GHC heavyweight tag team champion. He's so talented, and I think it's time for him to get a push. But he's not getting any younger. I want him to get one reign with that IWGP heavyweight title. I'm starting to think it won't happen, and I'm very annoyed by that. But it's going to be Okada. It's going to be a great match. These two are going to look fantastic. So far, the two main events have been the easiest one to predict. Let's see. Will All Out keep that trend going? Spoiler alert, if you listen to me over on the Lotus Moon podcast, no. So, All Out, the nightcap, starts at sometime. It starts at, my brain says 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So let's go with that. Now we're going to go from pre-show to main show here. Probably the first match on the pre-show is going to be the Casino Women Battle Royal, where the winner is one of the women in the inaugural AEW Women's World Championship match on the first episode of AEW on TV. So far, the announced participants are Nyla Rose, Britt Baker, Allie, Brandy Rhodes, Teal Piper, Evilise, Jazz, Big Swole, also known as Ariel Monroe, Sadie Gibson, Awesome Kong, and this one I didn't notice, Shazza McKenzie. I have a new favorite because I like Shazza McKenzie. This is confusing me. So first off, there are still names on the women's roster that aren't in this match. Where's Bea Priestley? Where's Kylie Ray? Where's Leva Bates? Penelope Ford, even though she might not be a wrestler in AEW. Hikaru Shida and Rio get a pass because they have a match on the main show. But where's Bea Priestley at? And Kylie Ray? It feels weird that they're not in this. And it's something I think they would want to be in. But looking at the ones who are in it, a couple stick out as possible winners. Brandy Rhodes, unfortunately, does stick out as a possible winner. I really hope she's the first eliminated, actually. Britt Baker and Allie stand out. I think it's probably going to be Britt Baker or Allie. And if I put money on it, it would be Britt Baker. Because of the fact I think they want her to be the face of that women's division. And she's talented enough to do so. So I think we're going to see Britt Baker win the match. Awesome Kong's going to probably be eliminated by AJ Kong at some point. Or they'll both eliminate each other or something like that. Who else? I'm excited to see Teal Piper, Chaz McKenzie, obviously. And Sadie Gibbs. I haven't seen Sadie Gibbs wrestle before. And I'm very excited to see that. It's also really nice to see Jazz back. Although, even if it's just a one-off, it's always good to see her back. Now let's go to the other pre-show match. Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn versus Angelico and Jack Evans. Right now, I'm more curious as to why Angelico signed with AEW. He hasn't won a match since signing. He's one of the biggest names coming into the promotion before its launch. Why is nobody talking about this? Why is no one talking about the fact that Angelico has never won a match in AEW as of this point, even though it's only been 2 shows? And Angelico and Jack Evans are a more established tag team. But because of the fact I think they want to push young talent on AEW's side, is so they can make their own stars. And that's what they're doing with Private Party. They're making them their own stars. Think of a version of the Street Profits if both guys were smaller than they are now. They have charisma, they have style, they have swag. I'm curious if they can get it done on the mat because I haven't seen them actually have a match yet. Saturday is going to be my first time seeing them. I hope they look good. I'm going with Private Party because of the fact that I think AEW has bought into them more. And also the fact that Angelico and Jack Evans have never won a match in AEW yet makes me a little nervous, to be honest. But I feel like Private Party is a safe pick because of the fact that they are building them up to be a big name team. But there is the fact that Private Party are young. They're up and coming. And Angelico and Jack Evans are a little older. So they put over the young up-and-comers, then people are going to pay attention to the young up-and-comers. Now we get to the main card. First match on the main card that I could find. Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, and Marco Stunt versus SoCal Uncensored of Frankie Kazarian, Christopher Daniels, and Scorpio Sky. Is this one really hard? I was explaining this over on the Lotus Moon podcast. I feel like we all have an attachment to Luchasaurus because of the reaction he got at Double or Nothing from the internet crowd. He was signed. We all kind of feel that attention to him, like the draw to him. It's the same thing we felt for Cedric Alexander at the Cruiserweight Classic, and it's the same thing we felt for Mia Yim at the Mae Young Classic last year. That being said, SoCal Uncensored is just such an overall good team. It's really hard to argue against that. And I think that with the talent they have there in the tag team division, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy are going to be another tag team. I know Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt are doing a possible tag team. They're doing a tag team tournament for OWE in the UK. So those two could be a tag team too, but I think it's probably going to be Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. But SoCal Uncensored has spent years together as a team. They know each other so well. I think they're going to win. And it'll be a good way to set everybody up for the long night ahead of them of wrestling. Next is the previously mentioned women's match between Riho and Hikaru Shida. It is rumored that the winner of this match will be the second participant in the first ever AEW Women's Championship match. Now, if it's the winner, and we go based off of classic wrestling, and it's a heel versus a face, and I pick Britt Baker to win the minigame, they're a face, then it would make sense for Riho to win the match. But I think they're going to give us what we want, and we just want to see a great match. And I think we're going to be seeing that a lot more now. Because we don't want things that we don't get. Like, everyone's like, oh, Bayley versus Sasha's going to be great. That was scrapped like 3 times on the main roster. If we can get Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker, that's a match I want to see. And that's a match I think we're going to get. Also, it saves my ears from hearing Rio's awful theme more than once a night. I mean, I think it's great. It's supposed to be annoying, but God, is it annoying. So I know I'm going through these pretty quickly because there are some that I kind of want to talk about. A little more than others. Next up is Darby Allin versus Joey Janela versus Jimmy Havoc in a Cracker Barrel clash. I'm pretty sure it's just a no disqualification match. Now, this one's tough. 2 guys have had their moments, kind of. Joey Janela had the big match with Moxley at one of the shows at Fyter Fest, I believe. Same show, Darby Allin went to a time limit draw with Cody, which is a very big point that you don't see that often in pro wrestling. Jimmy Havoc hasn't really had a big moment yet. He was in the final 4 of the what's it? The first Casino Battle Royal, the one Page won. But he hasn't really had that singles match yet. And I think that's where this changes because of the fact that Jimmy Havoc is another guy that I kind of found a little early back into my deep dive into pro wrestling. But also the fact that, yes, he hasn't had this match before, But yes, he hasn't been a big name in every company he's been to. But I think he's going to be a big name because of the fact of how hard they're pushing him on social media. And Havoc is just somebody who I really hope they make him a heel because he can be a great, great heel. That's what I want to see. But for right now, I think this match could steal the show depending on how their cards are played. Now, I look at it, if they give them time, this could be the best match of the show. I really wanted to get time. Because these are three really talented wrestlers. Two of them I'm just not a fan of personally. But Jimmy Havoc is one of my favorite wrestlers right now. I really want to see, him become that big name that everybody knows. But the fact that it's Jimmy Havoc and he's not the biggest name, he's not the biggest guy, he's a blood, hardcore, and guts guy. It's a bit of a tough sell. Like, yeah, they want it to look like a legitimate sport, and I understand that. But it's a real tough sell. You don't see that much blood in, the NFL. Jimmy Havoc wins this one. It could set up some story building. Maybe we see a possible tag team out of it with him and another person in the next match. But I do think this is going to be... This match is the one I think I'm most looking forward to. Partly because of the stipulation. I'm curious what this actually means. Is it just sponsored by Cracker Barrel? I really think that's it, but I could be wrong, and the goal to victory would be to put both your opponents in the barrel. Who knows? Next up, you have Cody versus Shawn Spears, who's accompanied by Tully Blanchard. At first, I really thought this was going to be Arn Anderson, because it was announced that since Shawn Spears has Tully Blanchard in his corner, Cody can have somebody in his corner. I really thought it was going to be Arn Anderson. But then I remembered the Rhodes can't trust the Four Horsemen. So I kind of counted out Arn. Dustin came to mind. Could work. Would be very interesting to see too. Because of the fact that, yeah, they're brothers and they beat the hell out of each other, but they could be a tag team now. Maybe. I would like to see it because of the fact that it furthers that storyline and it's nice to see. I do think Havoc could form a team with Shawn Spears here. And they could both be like the hardcore team, essentially. It's kind of tough to make the prediction without knowing who's in Cody's corner. But I'm going to go with Shawn Spears. Because of the fact that I think AEW wants to make him a big-time name, I think their whole goal is going to be creating new stars. And Shawn Spears is somebody that doesn't really have much. He's a pretty clean slate, all things considered. So, I look at it, it's always hard to kind of think, like, how are they going to win? And I do feel like whoever comes out with Cody is going to get involved, especially if it is Arn Anderson. And it'll be tough for Cody to come back from that if Arn spinebusters him. But it's tough. This is maybe the actually... Keep yawning. I don't know why. This is maybe the toughest match to predict in the whole card. Shawn Spears, simply because of the fact that I think they plan to make him a big name. He's going to be a big name, and he's going to be a key feature on AEW television going forward. Next up, the Escalera. The ladder match for the AAA World Tag Team Championships between the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks. Lucha Bros are defending champions, excuse me. This is a tough pick. Because of the fact that A, Phoenix did injure his leg, so I'm curious how much they're going to have to change of that match. But B, do we raid this temple? And do we think with a particular booking hat on? Now, there's still yet to be announced AEW Tag Team Champions. There's going to be a tournament that takes place, and if whoever wins here is going to be a favorite for that AEW Tag Team Championships. And I look at this, I tend to think no, because I think they want to build up other people. Like, yeah, Lucha Bros are great. Yeah, Young Bucks are great. Everybody knows Young Bucks. A lot of people know Lucha Bros. So maybe somebody else gets the titles. But it's tough because the more interesting factor to me is Phoenix's injury. But with the other one, with the loser being more likely to win the AEW Tag Team Championships, that could set up a winner-takes-all match between these two. And I think after this show, I want this feud to die out or go away for a while and maybe revisit it later. Because of the fact we've seen these two go against each other on the past two shows, and I think we're all ready for a break from it. I'm going with Lucha Bros to retain because also the fact that I still say I don't think AAA wants to play hot potato with their tag team titles. And I don't think that'll happen yet. It would still be pretty early because they just won them back from the Bucks too. Next up is Best Friends, Chucky T and Beretta versus the Dark Order in Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, where the winner receives a first round bye in the AEW World Tag Team Championship Tournament. This is tough because of the fact that do they go with the best friend route where they've been a good team, they've never really gotten that push to the next level, or do they go with the Dark Order, a team they've kind of built up by themselves? Personally, I would go with the first one, with the Bucks probably losing tonight. You would want a nice face tag team win, but I feel like it's too early for the Dark Order to lose a match yet. I would say it's still a really tough call, even though they haven't lost. Now, my thing is, I think about how we can get from point A to point B. And if Dark Order wins, then they get a bye, and they'll probably be on the same side of the bracket as Private Party. If what's their faces? Best Friends wins, we can set up camp wherever. So I'm going to take the Dark Order here, primarily because of the fact that they aren't new, they're their own thing, and they want to push that to the moon, I'm imagining. Now, the issue with Best Friends losing is that they kind of fall into that Jack Evans and Angelico territory where they've lost a lot. So it's tough simply because of the fact that Best Friends haven't looked really well booked recently. I'm going to go Dark Order because, yes, it's the new shiny toy that everybody loves, but also the fact that they're not in my collection yet. So, part of my own thing. Now, we get to the semi-main. It's going to be Kenny Omega against not the elbow infection John Moxley has, but against Pac. This is tough because of Pac wanting to save his image. And I feel like a cannonball to the face would not really help that. So, God, it's a lot tougher than I thought. Like, Omega's going to be their ace. Pac could be the Dragon Gate ace. I'm going to go with Kenny Omega because of the fact it's a last-minute replacement. It's a tough call. Could be some sort of distraction for Jordy Neville, and we see him have to go, and he's off somewhere doing something. I don't know. And the fact that Pac kind of sat out the first few shows recently, it's a really hard sell for him to be anything more than just a guy who is there for the match. I could be completely wrong, and he's back with AEW full time now that he's dropped the Dragon Gate title, but part of me just says he's not yet. So I'm going to take Kenny Omega because of the fact that Pac is not 100% exclusive yet. There's also the factor that I think there's enough ground to be based on having Omega here. Like, he's one of the big names, he's a big star of the company. But he does have that name power that Pac doesn't have back just yet. And I'm very excited to see what he can do. Now we get to the main event of the evening. We have Hangman Page, Adam Page, whatever he's going by now, versus Chris Jericho, where the winner will be the inaugural AEW World Champion. I argued about this on Lotus Moon. I'll put the argument here too. Why would AEW put their first ever World Championship on a guy from WWE? That is inadvertently plugging your competition. Now, I think about it as if Jericho wins, it kind of undermines all that AEW wants to do. They want to be about the young up-and-coming talent. They want to push them to the moon. They want to show all the great talent they could have. And it's just like there's easy to predict matches and hard to predict matches. This one's pretty hard. Because I can see them putting the title on Jericho and saying that you guys did it before, we can do it now. Also the fact that it is Chris Jericho in 2019, who has distanced himself super far from WWE. This is maybe the hardest match to predict because you can see a young up-and-comer like Page winning the title, but you can also see somebody who's already established like Jericho winning a title. It's a real tough call. It's something that you really have to sit and think about. And I don't really have time for that. This is the match that I think is going to define what AEW is. Because we've seen a lot of the talent. Now we have to see how are they going to book champions going forward. I'm very curious to see it. And just because of the fact that I think they don't want to have one of their rivals' biggest names from the past decade, 2 decades, be their first champion, I'm going with Page. I think Page makes sense. I think he's young, he's talented, he's super popular, and I think it's time for him to actually show the world what he can do with the title belt. So that is my all-out predictions. Quick recap. We have Britt Baker winning the Battle Royal. We have Private Party, SoCal Uncensored, Hikaru Shida, Jimmy Havoc, Shawn Spears, Lucha Brothers, Dark Order, Kenny Omega, and Adam Page, not Chris Jericho. Not Chris Jericho, we have Adam Page. But that is it for this week of the Armchair Armdrager podcast. Busy weekend of professional wrestling coming up here tomorrow. Like I said, we have TakeOver, we have Royal Quest, we have All Out. Very exciting times. We are going to be doing triple coverage of this event, of this major wrestling weekend. We have TakeOver covered, we have Royal Quest covered, and we have All Out covered. Now, that is going to be happening over on allthingscombat.com, where we are on Twitter at thingscombat. In-depth stuff about it will be next week on this podcast. I'll probably have a what happened at or review or whatever we call them for All Out. Maybe for TakeOver UK also. I don't exactly know yet. There's a couple things we could have working on that day. Now, I look at it too. Triple coverage is a lot. So make sure in between the shows you get up and stretch, take a break, take a nap, get some food, do whatever you need to get ready for that final show. It's going to be a push. It's going to be a grind. It's going to be a fun day of pro wrestling, though. Very, very exciting, and I'm really excited to see it. So that is all the time we have for this week. This is not all the time we have for next week already. Next week is going to be reviews of these shows. Probably a look at the King of the Ring finals, what it could be. What else could possibly be next week? We would be, I think, just a couple of weeks away, maybe 2 weeks away from actually having NXT on TV. But like I said, that is it for this week with the biggest wrestling weekend of the summer, of the year, of ever maybe. As always, you can follow myself on Twitter at ChurroSolider. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Podcast Armchair. You can follow All Things Combat, like I already mentioned, at Things Combat, where we cover professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA. Our merch store is currently down. It should be back up September 1st. I'm also the sports editor over The Cauldron, and you can follow that at CSU Cauldron. And if you want to see Cleveland State news and information, that'll all be there. this has been a fun episode this week. A lot of predictions, a lot of talking about it. I'm tired. I'm probably going to go crash hard now. Very, very excited for this weekend of wrestling. Looking way forward to it. Curious what matches are going to steal the show and what matches will have us talking about it the next day. Like I always say after these videos are done too, thank you guys so much for listening, so much for sticking with me for an hour where I just make predictions for pro wrestling. This is something I just do for fun, so go ahead and hit subscribe, hit like, leave comments, do all that. Just a lot of fun doing this and just having a chance to sit down and talk about pro wrestling and get thoughts out there that I've had inside for a while. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you next week for a whole nother episode.